Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Aviana. This is Aviana's Ascension, and today we are doing a self-healing vlog. So what is that? So basically we're just going to talk about different topics about why you self-abandon, why you might struggle with setting boundaries. We're going to talk about the root causes, common root causes for that, and a few different solutions. All right? Because I believe we all have the power to heal ourselves. A lot of it stems from, first of all, awareness, having the consciousness to be able to say, okay, wait a minute, this is a pattern, this is a cycle. Figuring out why you do that makes it a lot easier to stop doing that and to choose different patterns for yourself. Okay, so if you struggle with self-abandonment, if you struggle with setting boundaries, saying no, putting yourself first, honoring your needs before others, this is the video for you. Okay, so before we get into it, a couple things I want to clarify. It's not bad to be a giver. It's not bad to, say someone's going through a hard time or some sort of emotional breakdown or whatever they're going through. It's totally cool to say, okay, let me put myself to the side for a second and show up for my loved one or show up for whoever. You know what I mean? But if that's the rule and not the exception, that's when you can get into some trouble. You can get in a situation where, work, friends, family, always doing things around the house before giving yourself some rest. And sometimes it's not even just about rest. It's about, I wanted to go to the gym, but this person is trying to pull me in this direction. You go to the gym, go do what you need to do, and don't feel bad, don't feel guilty about doing that. Okay? And know that that's not a pattern, but it's a practice, right? Because it is a pattern. It is a pattern to be able to say, okay, I need to put myself first, then I can show up for this, right? You have to get your brain out of that conditioning, thinking I have to show up for others instead of myself. Because we don't want to create that rule, because then you're getting pulled in a million different directions. You're exhausting yourself for everything else in your life. And then you have no energy to show up for yourself. And then that keeps you exhausted because you're not replenishing your energy. And we're not doing that no more. So let's get into it. Let's talk about why people self-abandon, why they struggle with setting boundaries, and how we can overcome that. Okay? So I got my notes here. First one we're going to talk about, honestly, the most popular reason is childhood trauma, of course. A lot of our issues as adults, as we're becoming older, getting into our bigger bodies, having autonomy, it's really hard for us to undo those patterns that we learned as children, And I will say a lot of us, especially like the generation that we have now, we had to go through a lot of difficulty, a lot of pain, disappointment, trauma, in order to become the version of us we needed to be the healers, to break generational cycles, to choose better for ourselves, for our future children. Okay? So if you had a childhood, which most of us did in some way or another, where, maybe anytime you expressed an uncomfortable emotion or expressed, discomfort with something or disagreeing with something, maybe you got a response from your parent, like they punished you for that, whether that's through, talking down to you, or maybe through some sort of physical punishment or taking things away, or maybe it's just in a sense of disregarding what you're saying. Maybe there was no crazy response, but maybe no response at all. So whatever the reaction was, it taught you as a child that my needs don't matter. It taught you, okay, if I voice my need or voice my opinion or set a boundary, I'm going to be punished. Or if I do that, the love that I need is going to be taken away. Maybe you got affection and love by compromising or by putting your needs on the back burner or not vocalizing your needs. So then it made you realize, okay, in order to be safe, in order to be loved, I have to put my needs down. I have to put my feelings down. And that's where it's safe. I feel you. I hear you. Oh, not my mic. But yeah, that's where a lot of it comes from. And also, like, some of you might have felt like you need to hide your emotions so you can have love, so you can have affection. So how do we fix this? Okay. A lot of us, I will say this, it's not your fault, right? That's not your fault that you experience that, but it is your responsibility to heal it. And I think that's where a lot of us struggle too. We say, oh, because of my parents, because of how I grew up, because of certain things that I had been through, this is why I'm this way. And that is true, but that's not why you should stay that way. Having that awareness is step one. And then choosing different ways of showing up, different patterns, is how you undo that. It's intentional, and it's not just going to happen overnight either, because you learning to put your emotions down to feel love or to feel safe didn't happen in just one instance either. Okay, so how do we fix that? First of all, you have to recognize you're in a big body now. Okay, you're not that little kid anymore. And your inner child is always with you, right? So the more work you do to heal your inner child, the better it's going to be to undo those things. You got to work with your inner child to make your inner child feel safe. You have to do that in your big body. You have to tell little you, like, hey, we're in a big body now. I know this is what we've been used to, but we're safe to choose differently. Okay. And, being honest, you have to start being honest, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you think you're going to receive a punishment or someone's going to reject you or take their love and affection away. You have to be honest. Okay. Because you got to recognize that hiding your feelings and continuing that cycle, that pattern, it's only going to keep the wrong people around you. People, whether that's work, family, friends, romantic partners, people that are used to you diluting yourself, not being honest about your feelings, they will continue to expect that from you. Okay. And I want you to know that if you're honest and you say, I can't do that, I need to set this boundary, I don't like this, or whatever, and someone decides to punish you for that or have a crazy emotional reaction to it, is manipulating you about it, whatever the situation is, that lets you know these people are not meant to be around me anymore. Okay. And that's the thing. When we aren't honest and we don't say, this is what's not working for me, it creates that expectation that you're going to put your feelings down to go along with something, to get along. Okay. And we don't want that. We don't want to create that expectation, because not only do the people in your life follow that and keep expecting that, the universe will expect that for you too. Because the universe says, the universe doesn't see any right or wrong. That's why bad people still have beautiful lives. It's because the universe goes along with what you believe, what you feel is true. So if you feel, I have to abandon myself to receive love, to feel like I belong, to feel safe, the universe will say, okay, we'll make that happen. The universe is like a waitress taking your order. We're going to write down exactly what you say and what you mean. And that's what we're going to have happen for you. Okay. So understand that it's not just about, okay, let's just get along with this person. It's about, what is the expectation I'm placing for this person, for the universe, for myself, for my brain? And is that the expectation I want to stick to? And when it's not, you have the right, the autonomy to say, let's change it up. Let's do something different. Okay. And you get to do that at any point in your life. You don't have to stick with certain rules or whatever that don't work for you. You know what I mean? What works for you one day may not work for you another day. You have to give yourself the autonomy to be flexible and to change so you can create the life that you want for yourself. And it's okay if that changes, you know? But a big thing for that for me is just saying, I don't want people, the universe, situations where I'm expected to abandon myself for love, for safety, for belonging. And anyone that does require that of you is not meant for you. Okay? Doesn't matter how long you've known this person. It doesn't matter how strong your connection is, how funny they are. You know what I mean? Because your sense of self-worth, your sense of safety, you honoring your boundaries and your needs should be more important than maintaining a relationship that thrives off of you putting yourself on the back burner. We're not doing that. Mm-mm. All right, let's keep it moving and grooving. Okay, the next one, low self-worth. Yeah, okay. And I will say again, like a lot of these other things can stem from things in childhood, or, maybe you had a past relationship or friendship or whatever where these patterns were established and it came from there too. But to me, I'm someone that believes like you wouldn't even be attracting someone like this if there wasn't already that underlying feeling that you have to abandon yourself. So, okay, let's talk about low self-worth. So this could be an energy of feeling like you don't deserve care, rest, or unconditional love. So you accept the bare minimum from others and don't give yourself the care you deserve. Yes. Okay. 11:11 on the timer. Time to take care of yourself. Yeah. Okay. So low self-worth. Yeah. If you're someone who feels like you're not worthy of someone listening to you, you're not like your feelings, your needs aren't worthy enough to be honored, to be taken seriously, you are going to attract people who don't honor them, situations that don't honor you. You know what I mean? And, it makes you feel like, this is all I deserve, someone cheating, someone lying, someone being scandalous, your needs not being met, your feelings not being listened to, your voice not being heard. Whenever we tolerate less than that, it's because we think we don't deserve it. You know what I mean? And that's just not true. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier, like unconditional love, being heard, honoring your feelings, those are all birthrights, okay? Not things that you have to prove, that you have to work for, okay? I want you to know that understanding that these things are what you are born to experience, just like you don't beg for water. You know what I mean? Like if you're thirsty and someone said, "No, I'm not letting you drink water," you'd be like, "Man, what's going on here? I'm getting out of here and I'm going to go get myself some water. I'm not going to be parched for no reason." You know what I mean? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't say, "Okay," and if you would, let's work on that too. Cuz no, we're not doing that. It's just about understanding that as a human, as a living being on this earth, the fact that you're here is proof enough. It's not about how much money you're saving. It's not about how much work you've done, how many degrees you have, how good of a cook you are. It's not about the material. It's not like the universe is got a jar for you and it's like, okay, how many gold stars does this person have? Okay, not enough. So then they don't get their self-worth. They don't get the things they deserve. No. You have to understand it's about your belief system. So if you feel like you're not worthy of love, care, attention, you're not worthy of your own love, care, and attention, we got to redo that programming, okay? These are birthrights. If you wouldn't beg for water, don't beg for these other things. Don't beg for nothing, actually. Because begging puts you on a scarcity frequency, and we don't want that. We don't want that, okay? Your worthiness is inherent, right? I want y'all to be so confident in yourself and move with so much self-love. Ooh, so much self-worth. Some of you haven't told yourself you love yourself in a long time. Tell yourself right now, I love myself. Give yourself a nice hug. I'd do it for real, but I don't want to hit the mic, But it starts with you. So I want you to start giving yourself the love and attention and care that you give for others, What's your health routine looking like? What's your morning routine, your nighttime routine? When's the last time you read a book? When's the last time you went outside, did some yoga maybe, Start showing up for yourself the way you show up for others, and that feeling of self-worth will increase. Because your self-worth, it's not just about how much you love yourself, obviously, but And not just about like how you think about yourself, but how you show up for yourself and the actions you take about yourself. Show up for yourself in the way that you want others to, because you deserve that. And not waiting for others to give you that kind of permission slip. You know what I mean? You deserve it. It's your birthright. I don't even know. Like, you know what I mean? All right, let's keep it moving. Societal expectations. That's a big one. That's a big one. Okay. So sometimes in our societies, especially in America, right? With our capitalism and, kind of like the hustle and grind mentality, kind of like suffer and sacrifice before you can succeed. Especially living in America, it can be very, very hard to get out of that social programming of feeling like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or, work hard, play hard, It can also be, even if it's not the society as a whole that you live in, maybe the culture you're in, or just your friends and family, your work in general, they put this pressure on you to always show up, to always give, to always produce. And so being surrounded by people and environments like that can make it really hard to take a break or to take time for yourself. Okay. Gender roles, for sure. Whether you're man, woman, non-binary, whatever, we all have certain gender roles that our society puts on us. Like for men, they can definitely feel the pressure to always be going, to always be showing up, solving things, figuring things out. Women, especially if you have children, it is very much expected that you take care of those kids, you put the kids first before you do anything for yourself. And, I'm super against that for either role, because at the end of the day, we're not robots. We can't do what everyone else does, how everyone else does it. We are human beings, and things work for us differently how they work for others. And I think whenever we have those gender roles and that societal pressure, we can really judge ourselves, be hard on ourselves for not showing up how the moms on TikTok show up, or how the dads on TikTok show up. It can be really hard, especially with social media, to not feel like you're falling behind or not feel like you're not doing enough. And again, we all have our own paths. We all have our own journeys that are filled with highs and lows and obstacles. So we cannot let society or social media or the people around us dictate what's good for us and what's not. Okay. Oh yeah, another one. I love how I'm just reading off my notes. Listen, we keep it real over here. I'm not a robot. I don't have all this memorized. Okay, but this says overgiving, overproductivity are expected. You may feel like you're falling behind or not doing a good job if you're not overperforming. Yeah. So I kind of already tapped on that a bit. But yeah, so it's just a lot of, I feel what the societal thing is kind of comparing, right? And they do say comparison is the thief of joy, right? So what works for you may not be what works for someone else. All right. And I will say, like, the work thing, because I work at a restaurant. I serve tables. I bartend sometimes too. That's not relevant. But it's so interesting to me to see how the generations of servers have changed, Like my manager, he's worked for that restaurant like 30 years or something. So he started as a server, he's all the way up to the general manager now. And it's just so interesting, like, it's just so interesting to see how the expectations and the responses have changed through the generations. So, back in his day, if one of his managers told him, like, no, we're working late, this is what we're doing, I don't care, if you want to keep your job, you're going to do it. You know what I mean? And an example with me, so obviously I have my business, right? So during the winter times, I'll usually work like 5 days a week because there's not a ton of vendor opportunities for me, and it's busier at the restaurant. And then when I first started working there, I worked the 5 days, and then my business started picking up, so I went down to 2 days. And he told me, he was like, well, we might have to fire you because this isn't what you agreed on whenever you whenever you applied for a year. And I was like, okay, whatever you got to do, go ahead. Whatever you got to do. That's none of my business. If that's what we need to do, that'll be what we need to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to let anybody bully me to working 5 days a week if I don't want to work 5 days a week. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing it. I don't care, you know? And I think that the intimidation and the kind of like bullying energy has, it definitely doesn't hit like it used to for the older generations. You know, like, I'm not going to be intimidated by my boss. I don't care. You know, I could throw a rock and get a job at another restaurant. Not that I want to do that. I love where I work, right? But it's just like a little example to see, like, I know if the roles were reversed, he would have been like, okay, never mind, sorry, I'll work the 5 days. Mind you, I still work there. You know, it's been a few years since I made that decision, or a couple years. So it's just interesting for me to see that shift. So, especially if some of the people that are putting that pressure on you are from maybe an older generation, understand that that's what was going on for them at the time. That's the rules that they live by. Obviously, we've got new rules today. So don't get intimidated by someone like that. Okay. So, how do we fix that? How do we fix societal expectations dominating how we're showing up? First of all, get to know what is in alignment for you and what's not. You know what I mean? Like, for me, working 2 days, that's perfect, and I'll pick up as I desire, you know, but I'm not going to work 5 days, stress myself out, not have time for my business. For what? You know what I mean? I'm not doing that, right? So, as you're noticing what, just notice what makes you feel overwhelmed. Notice what gets your nervous system acting up, and say to yourself, okay, let me jot that down. Let me make a note of it. Notice how I'm feeling. And then next time that situation pops up for you, you decide to respond differently. You decide, hey, I remember last time I said yes to this. It stressed me out unnecessarily. So I'm going to have to say no this time around. And I want you to know it's going to be very uncomfortable for you to establish those boundaries at first, because your brain, your ego, your nervous system is all going to say, wait a minute, we're not used to saying no. We're not used to setting this boundary. How do we know we're going to be safe? And the thing is, I guess you don't know how other people will respond, but that's not your problem. It's all about how you choose to carry it. You know what I mean? Someone else might get upset with you setting a boundary, but they can emotionally regulate themselves. If they can't, that's on them. You stay strong, stay grounded, breathe, and you'll be okay. All right. But just be patient with yourself as you give yourself time to navigate what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and starting to set new boundaries. Because again, the brain, the ego, they're going to be like, I don't know about all that, because they decide if you're going to be safe with something based on the past. So if you've never set that kind of boundary before, or if you did in the past and, you know, the person or situation had a negative response, your brain and your ego is naturally going to say, I don't want to go through that again. I'm trying to keep me safe. So let's just go along with what we know. Don't do that. Just like you got to hold your inner child's hand and say, I'm in a big body now. I'm going to be okay. You got to do that with your brain and your ego. All right. I want you to know that those feelings of guilt or panic or shame or whatever, they're going to come up. That's part of it. But you decide, how do I choose to react and respond to this uncomfortable feeling? Breathe through it, meditate, you know, whatever, go outside, ground, but don't falter. Don't go backwards. Let yourself sit with the discomfort so you learn how to respond to it differently. Because essentially that's what it is. It's the discomfort of feeling like, if I set this boundary, something bad's going to happen. That's not true. And by the way, if the something bad is someone doesn't want to be your friend anymore, or, you know, you get fired or something happens, you didn't want to be there in the first place. Okay? All right. Okay. So another one is perfectionism. Yeah. So this is especially like if you are someone who overworks, nobody told you to overwork, but you have like almost like this underlying panic or feeling that if I'm not doing this 110%, I'm not going to get where I want to be, or I'm a failure, or I'm not a good person, or whatever the situation is. This could come up because maybe you only got praise or recognition whenever you accomplish something to the best, you know? Like, say you grew up in a house where it's like, if you didn't get first place, you're last. If you're not first, you're last. Okay, Ricky Bobby? Or maybe like if you didn't get an A, you got reprimanded or you just didn't get acknowledged, you know, whatever the situation could be. So again, this is an energy of recognizing that you are safe to not be perfect. Okay. I definitely suggest affirmations. That's a really good one. In for all of these, you can look up affirmations because those are a subtle, easy way of reprogramming your mind. I think listening to them in the morning, like say when you're getting ready for work or getting ready to go do something, listening to them at night while you're doing your nighttime routine, those are really good. Also exposure therapy. So, you know, say you're someone who's always doing 110%, you know, like you work a whole shift or a shift. I'm such a server. You work a whole day at work, then you come and you make dinner and then you do the dishes, then you clean the house and then you get your, you know, like there's always something to do. Make dinner, but don't do the dishes, you know? Or maybe you see something on the ground. No need to pick it up. You know, maybe you wake up and maybe every day you go to the gym or do some sort of routine, but you're really tired that day. Let yourself sleep in. Let yourself have a rest day. You know, allow something to be messy. Have an off day. Allow yourself to rest when you need to rest. It's not always about how productive, how accomplished can I be, because that also kind of goes back to a little bit of low self-worth, feeling like if I'm not 100% the best 100% of the time, then I'm no good at all. And again, your self-worth cannot be dictated based on things externally. It is an inherent thing that you are worthy, that you are amazing. You already are the best version of yourself right here, right now. You know what I'm saying? So allow yourself to kind of loosen the reins a little bit. Allow yourself to recognize you're safe to not be perfect. Because guess what? Perfect isn't real. That's not a real thing. Okay? There's always going to be something else to do. There's always going to be something that you could go harder at. So you cannot let 110% be the rule. That's just not sustainable. That's too exhausting. You know what I'm saying? And trust me, because I have 4 Capricorn placements and a Taurus rising, also 4 Aquarius placements, but that's neither here nor there. So all that Earth and the Capricorn and the Taurus, baby, I could work all day, every day if I let myself, but that's not sustainable. Okay. And I am very lucky that I have a business that's very spiritual. So I can't fake the funk and I can't push and get the results I want because spirit knows, I know, we all know that's not how that works, you know? So I get it, especially when you have big goals, big dreams, you know, entrepreneur to entrepreneur. But the thing is, pushing yourself will most likely delay that end goal. Or it could even get you to the goal that you want. And then because you're used to being 110%, you don't stop and celebrate. You don't acknowledge how far you've come. You just keep going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny. There's no content. There's no satisfaction. Just allow yourself to pause. Allow yourself to be present. It's not always about what's the next thing. Okay? All right. Last but not least, codependency. Okay. Especially in relationships. So you could be someone who maybe you fixate a lot on another person's problems or what they need to be doing, what they need to be working on, which then makes you neglect yourself. Hey, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Okay. That was definitely my last relationship. I was very fixated on helping that man become the best version of himself when he didn't even want to. That's the tea about it. Half the time when we're doing all this fixing and focusing on someone else, half the time they don't even want to be fixed. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Don't save her. You know, they don't want that. Because guess what? If they wanted to do it, they would. It's not about, well, they don't know how. Let them learn. You know what I'm saying? A lot of that energy of let me fix you, let me do this for you, let me, and let me neglect myself, a lot of that is projection, We do for others what we wish we did for ourselves. If you're always looking at this is what you need to fix, there's something in you that needs fixing. Okay? And by the way, that's not an insult. That's what we're here to do on earth. We're here to heal. We're here to grow. We're here to evolve. That's a never-ending journey. Earth is a school for souls. Okay? So know that there's never going to be like, okay, that's it, I'm done healing. Like, no, it's forever. Sometimes you're healing trauma. Sometimes you're healing your self-worth. And sometimes you're saying, okay, let me decide for myself. I want to start setting boundaries now. Understand that healing has both. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable and dark, and sometimes it's beautiful and uplifting. But notice for yourself, if you're pouring so much into somebody else and then not taking care of yourself how you should be, what is it that you're fixating on with this person? Is it their money? Is it their physical health, their spiritual health, emotional, like their family stuff? Like, what is it that you are putting all this energy into? And then I want you to ask, where in my life am I missing that? Are you focusing on this person's finances? Meanwhile, your finances aren't where you want them to be. Not saying you got bills late or anything, but what's the savings looking like? You know what I'm saying? If you're so focused on this person healing their family dynamics, how are your family dynamics? And if they're good, then let's spend time with the family. Bring that person around your family. You lead by example, right? Lead by example instead of abandoning yourself. That's the most important thing. Because when you start leading by example, you show up and then you recognize either this person starts showing up or they don't. And if they don't, it lets you know that's where they want to be. That's the thing. We think we're here to save people. Even me as a healer, I'm not here to save people. I'm here to, show them how to save themselves, give them a little bit of the tools. But I don't go out of my way to find these people. They come to me. You know what I'm saying? So even me as someone who gets paid to do this stuff, I'm not projecting onto people. I'm not trying to scoop people up and save them. No. Because if they wanted to be saved, they would save themselves. If they wanted your help, maybe they'd ask for it. Okay? And if these are people who keep asking, but they're not changing, they want to be there. Okay? And what they like about you is that you're a shoulder to cry on, or you're someone who will bail them out. But they're not interested in the long-term fix. And that's okay. Because some people, they're not here to do that. Right? We're not in heaven. Not everyone is here to become enlightened and, figuring out their higher consciousness. Some people are here to show us what it would be like to not show up for ourselves. Some people are here to show us what it would be like if we weren't setting boundaries. Okay? So let them be teachers to you and let yourself learn what you're here to learn. But once you learn it, let it go. Keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, you are stagnating your own progress to save other people. And that might make you feel good. But let's find a way that actually aligns with our soul to do that. If you're a giver, if you're an empath, if you're a nurturer, I love that. And that's why I said earlier, this isn't about stopping that. It's about doing it in a way that works for you. Because you can show up for people without abandoning yourself. You can have boundaries without having to cut everybody off. You know what I mean? You deserve the love and care you give to everybody else. Okay? And this world has seen enough people kind of cut themselves off at the knee for others. I don't know if that's the right way you would say that saying, but I said it anyways. All right. That's where I'm going to leave it. Closing the laptop. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. How do I want to close this? You create your own reality, okay? I don't want you creating a reality where you are pouring from an empty cup, where you are, closed mouths don't get fed, that kind of thing. You deserve the love and care and attention you give to everybody else. I've said that a lot of times. I like it though. I'm just freestyling right now. I don't know. But you guys know what I'm saying, like you deserve that. And it is not the rule for you to abandon yourself and not have boundaries to be loved. That creates unsafe love. That creates manipulation. That creates using. That creates imbalanced relationships. And I'm not co signing that. Neither should you. Okay. So if you need a little bit of help on how to undo this even more, don't hesitate. YouTube has direct messaging now. Isn't that crazy? Send me a message on here. Leave a comment. You can email me, find me on social media, send me a message there, whatever works for you. Okay. But if you're wanting a little more deeper healing, you can always go to my website and check out my offerings. I do all sorts of stuff. So I do tarot readings, cord cutting rituals, alchemy ceremonies. I make personalized guided meditations and affirmations, all sorts of stuff going on. I do have online ceremonies as well once a month. They have different themes. So the month for July is nervous system reset. And I really like this one because each month has a different theme where we kind of dive deep into like the root cause of certain issues and how to overcome them, kind of like this video, but more of a meditation approach. But this next one, it's just like body scanning, breathing, releasing. So if you've been needing a break, if you've been needing some time to tune in with self, that ceremony might be good for you. I'll leave it linked down below. I also have down below all my social media, my website. So if you want to know more about my services, if you want to book something, check it out. You can also sign up for my newsletter on my website. Okay. When you sign up, you do get a 25% off discount code and a meditation sent to you. So if you're thinking about booking something, but you want a little discount, sign up for that newsletter. The emails will go to spam. So just be mindful of that. Yeah, I think that's it. That's where I'm going to leave it. All right. Set your boundaries. Stop abandoning yourself. It's not going to get you to that fulfilled place in your relationships or your work. It's just going to keep you feeling exhausted. So let's stop doing that. And if you're exhausted, I got something for that. Check out the ceremony. Okay. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.